Welcome to my weekend series about the golden age of television. Once again, I'm being joined by director Ralph Sinensky.
To add to that, Norman Rosemont, the producer I worked for, this could have been later, but he did say that when he had his production manager assign the day's work, they always assigned an extra bit to be sure that they got the amount they really wanted done. I think that went on from in more cases than for Norman Rosemont, that they always pushed just, this would be good. Well, let's add this scene. And the thing that Norman said that I kind of liked was he said, we always add the extra scene just to be sure we get what I want. But Ralph gets the other one too. So they got what they were looking for.
Yeah, that makes sense. You always want to have something on standby because you don't want to at 5 o'clock think, oh, we're done. Well, heaven forbid we wrap early.
I had that on one show that I was doing. I was directing the one with Raymond Burr, Ironside, and I was working with Lionel Linden, Curly Linden, and there's the story there. My very the first show I did after the Route 66 Naked City Bunch was at Universal. It was an episode of Arrest and Trial, and Lionel Linden, who's great photographer from the heyday of film. He directed The Manchurian Candidate. He just had credits all over the place. And he was noted, for his photography, but he also was noted for being an outspoken individual. And I came in always really prepared, and I would lay out my shot, and he would just look at me, take a rag out of his back pocket, slam it at the ground, and said, put the damn camera here. And I really was intimidated by him. And to carry the story for a little further, at the sixth day of filming, I was on local location, and at noontime, Curly came looking for me to tell me that he was leaving the show and to wish me well. I mean, and it turned out he had made an anti-Semitic remark to one of the drivers, had gone back to the studio, and so they had pulled him off and replaced him with Walter Strange. Well, for a while there, I just said, if I ever go to Universal, and if they assign, and that was it, you never knew when you went on a show who your crew were going to be, because they did not have standing crews there. So when I went back and I was going to do an Ironside, and Curly was assigned to it. But this was 2 or 3 years later. I thought, I've been around the ballpark a couple of times. I think maybe I can handle him this time and not have it get to me. He was a dream. It was a dream. It was one of the most fun set I was ever on. But there was one day midway through production where late in the afternoon, about 4 o'clock in the afternoon, I got word and saw that the assistant director was getting phone calls from the office. He was so far ahead because he was fast. Oh my God, he was fast. And we were just scheduled to be done very, very early. And they were talking, and I saw that. And so I went to him and I said, Curly, do you want to move to another set when we're done here? He said, shit, no. I said, well, you better slow down because that's what they're planning. And so he slowed down, and we ended up not finishing at 4:15. It was more like 5:15, 5:30, when we still had an early day off, but we didn't have to move to the set. Just another facet of our life in television. That was the only, those were the only 2 times I worked with them. But I mean, I get just a chill every time I look and see one of his credits on those old films, because they were big films. He was good. He was fast.
That's great. I have been on a few of those where, yeah, you're moving along, and so you do suddenly get, oh, we're gonna add this scene, and all the actors are scrambling to make sure they know their lines for this suddenly added scene, and you always hope it isn't one where you've got huge monologues that you haven't prepared.
I had an instance with that. This would have been before the walls, when I was doing The Fugitive, and it was the 4th Fugitive I did. Wonderful cameraman, Meredith Nicholson. And there was one day, and we had a lot of location days there. And there was one day, and I don't remember whether it was on set or on location, but I almost didn't, and maybe didn't get the full day's work. He had a great, Fred Ahern was the production manager. And then the next day I had a big scene with David and Georgianne Johnson inside Johnny Jensen's cave. And we got done early. And Fred Ahern was saying he didn't know what the hell to do. I mean, one day there was too much, and the next day there wasn't enough.
Wouldn't that typically be because of your shot list choices, how much coverage?
Well, there was a long scene between Georgianne and David, and a master and 2 close-ups, and they were such pros. They were such pros that gave such great performances. I don't know if you know that show. It's one worth looking at.
One of the very first jobs I had when I was very young, I worked on A Fugitive as a stand-in. They had an episode with a little girl, and they wanted a little girl to be a stand-in for her. And so that was one of my very first jobs. And so I got to work with David Janssen, and Suzanne Pleshette was the guest star. So that was, yeah, I remember lying in a hospital bed while they were lighting, because that was the scene they were going to do.
Suzanne Pleshette is a guest star on the 3rd Dr. Kildare when I was still just on staff. And I just thought she was magnificent.
Oh, and so gorgeous.
I work with her. Gorgeous. What a good actress. And
yeah,
never could figure out why she didn't, because she made movies, why she never became a major film star. And I think her big credit was the Newhart Show, wasn't it?
Probably. Yeah. That definitely made her a household name.
Yes. But I mean, so good and so talented.
Yeah, and obviously drama and
she could do anything. Yeah. She could do anything. She could do anything. But it was one of those cases, and there were a lot of gals and guys like that who were that talented and just didn't get that breakthrough role. Whereas there were some performers, much less talented, who happened to fall and get a breakthrough role, and they did it. It became major stars. That was the industry.
I think it still is. And I think sometimes it's a breakout role that particular performer is well suited for. So even though they might not have a lot of range as a performer, they really embody that role in a way that is magic.
And in a project that was attention-getting.
Definitely. While we're touching on the Waltons, before we completely move off, you had made a comment about feeling that, or recognizing that the Waltons didn't get the kind of respect within the industry that your agent had said, take that off your demo reel. Can you elaborate on why you think that was? Because I had the same feeling about it, but I didn't necessarily understand why.
Well, because it was a soft show. And I felt that in my own career, because in soft shows, I mean, I was a soft director when needed be. I could do the other stuff too, but I because I could do the soft stuff, I got a lot of that. Did a lot of family shows, a lot of kids shows, and I just think it was because of that. And there again, directors like actors were typecast.
Interesting. I guess that makes sense.
Yeah. In spite of the fact that, that I did Star Trek, I did a host of Quinn Martin shows, the FBI, which there was more time spent on location than in the studio. Naked City, The Fugitive, all of those, but Dr. Kildare and The Twilight Zone and just those shows. I was a soft director.
Thank you for joining me, Ralph, and I look forward to seeing all of you hopefully next time on my weekend series and perhaps during the week if you enjoy my behind the scenes of the Waltons. See you next time. Thanks for watching.